Alright guys, so we're going to start with the question 6 through 10 on this one. So, 6 right here says, which of the following is a key assumption in the viewpoint of scientist 1? So we're starting a new passage right here. So, then you're going to circle the key terms in the answer choices. So, ocean currents as a result of underwater earthquakes. So underwater earthquakes is what I'm going to look for in scientist 1. Ocean currents do not disturb the deposition of foraminifera. Plankton foraminifera fossilize quickly. Arctic ocean salinity increases with changes in water flows. So, let's go here. Now I'm going to go into scientist 1 for this question and see where we are. All right. Scientist 1. Arctic warming trend is due to recent changes in the currents. These changes redirected, blah, blah, blah. The influx of warm water raised the ground air temperatures. Samples of ocean organisms that accumulate on the floor can be used to determine the historical sample species, blah, blah, blah. 10 to 40% subpolar. Because the percentage of subpolar species is closely deposited, they're related to the water conditions. The foraminifera were deposited. So because the percentage is closely related to the water conditions, it can be concluded that over the past 100 years, we increased an influx of water from the warmer North Atlantic Ocean. So, do I see underwater earthquakes written at all? No. So I'm going to cross off answer choice A. So the ones that this one talks about are foraminifera mostly. So I'm going to be between B and C because that one matches there. So which one works? Fossilize quickly or do not disturb the deposition? So does it talk about how rapidly these fossilize? No, it says that they accumulate on the floor, and then it says deposited, which is close to deposition. So that key term matches. So my answer is B. All right, number 7. Scientist 2's argument for global warming. So I'm going to look at scientist 2. Global warming relies heavily on the assumption that. So increase carbon dioxide, increase the amount of reduces the amount of sunlight. Carbon dioxide, so I know I'm looking for that, escapes from the atmosphere. Historical atmospheric carbon dioxide is accurate, and the surface area of snow cover remains constant. So let's see what we've got. Scientist 2. Due to interactions between increased levels of atmospheric carbon dioxide and the melting of polar snow and ice. It's a greenhouse gas, blah, 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 allows sunlight to enter the atmosphere. Atmospheric measurements conducted since the 1960s reveal a steady increase in carbon dioxide levels. Increase lead to higher global temperatures, which in turn accelerates the melting of polar snow and ice. Okay, so this said accelerated at the surface. So we can cross off that one about the snow cover because it says accelerated, so we know it's not constant. Constant. We know it can't be A because A says reduces and this said increases in the passage. All right, carbon dioxide escapes from the atmosphere once it reaches a certain elevation. It didn't say that because it did talk about the amount of sunlight. So it did mention the 1960s, right? And it showed us an increase. So in order for us to use that, we have to think that that's accurate. So that is actually going to be C. All right, 8, 9, and 10, running through this. Scientist 1's theory contains the basic assumption that, so if you see assumption in the question, right, go to the answer choices first, right? So find the KT in answers first. Okay, so scientist 1 theory, temperature is a major determining factor of species survival. Polar species could not survive. Plankton foraminifera adapted to colder water temperatures. Plankton foraminifera death rates are directly related to carbon dioxide levels. So let's figure this out. Scientist 1's theory contains the basic assumption that. So let's see. The Arctic warming trend is due to changes. These changes occurred suddenly. redirected influx of warm water, raised local temperatures, blah, 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 can be used to determine. Sediment samples from the past 2,000 years on average contain 10 to 40, whereas sediment from the past 60% subpolar species. Because the percentage of subpolar species is closely related to water conditions, it can be concluded that over the past 100 years, the Arctic experienced an increased influx of water from the ocean. So, this one is talking about species, right? And it's talking about how the species changed. That triangle is changed in chemistry. So how did the species change? So, polar species could not survive in strong water currents. It doesn't mention the strength of the water currents. We can cross off A. All right. Planktic foraminifera adapted to colder water temperatures. Nope, because it says it's getting warmer. Planktic death rates are directly related to carbon dioxide levels. It does not mention carbon dioxide at all. So 8, our answer is A. So our key terms didn't match there. All right, number 9. Which of the following assumptions did scientist 2, so that's where we'll be looking, make when explaining her theory of Arctic warming? Yay for female scientists. This is not a note that you need to write, but yay, women in STEM. Woohoo! Okay. Ocean currents have changed due to warmer temperatures and melting polar snow. Increased atmospheric carbon dioxide are due to human combustion of fossil fuels. All right, I'm going to cross that one off right now because I remember in skimming through this that it never, ever, ever said fossil fuels or humans. So, no match. All right, marine organisms fossilize quickly when exposed to high levels of atmospheric carbon dioxide. We did not talk about marine organisms at all. That's a scientist 1 point. So I can cross off C. Seawater does not reflect sunlight as well as snow and ice. Okay, so which of the following assumptions did scientist 2 make when explaining her theory of Arctic warming? So, and remember that this passage ends here. Okay. The recent rise is due to interactions between increased levels of carbon dioxide and the melting of polar snow and ice. So we know that it's going to be talking about polar snow and ice. Carbon dioxide contributes, atmospheric conducted, blah, blah, blah. Increased levels led to higher global temperatures, which in turn accelerates the melting. So we're saying it speeds up the melting of polar snow and ice. Because snow and ice reflect much of the sunlight entering the atmosphere back into space, a reduction in the total surface area of sea ice establishes a strong positive feedback loop, drives Arctic temperatures even higher. So this one, reflection is a key term, and reflection is a key term here. Ocean currents have changed. So this one doesn't talk about ocean currents, actually. That's also a scientist 1 point. So we can cross off A. That's scientist 1. And so our answer is D because of this quote right there. So when I'm doing that, how do you know the answer is correct? I'm going to include this quote, right? And then I'm going to explain why. So that quote plus the explanation. And my last and final one to go over. What color have I not used? Okay, we'll do this one. 10. In her argument, scientist 1 assumed that. So, okay, so I know I'm going to be looking at scientist 1. Instrumentation in the 1960s. 1960s is a key term for scientist 2. Let's cross off A. Polar species could survive in the warmer waters. I know that polar species is written in here, so I'm going to say this answer choice is a maybe. Most subpolar species, I know that is also written in here. So I'm going to list that one as a maybe. The increasing salinity of the Arctic Ocean led to the death of polar species. So we don't really talk about salinity here. So that's how salty the ocean is. Nope. Salinity is not mentioned. Sorry for that gross noise. Okay, salinity is not mentioned, so we're between B and C. So, polar species could survive in warmer waters of the Atlantic. Most subpolar species did not rapidly evolve the ability to withstand colder temperatures in the past 2,000 years. So, let's see. Are we talking about the Atlantic Ocean redirected warm water from the Atlantic Ocean into the Arctic? Okay, the influx of warm water, so it is warmer. Okay, so that's matching so far. Raise the air temperatures, floor sediment can be used. Sediment samples from the past 2,000 years contain 10 to 40% subpolar species relative to polar species, whereas sediment samples from the past 100 years contain up to 60. So this one is saying that subpolar species are increasing by 20 to 50%. So most subpolar species did not evolve the ability to withstand the colder temperatures until 2,000 years. So this one is talking about subpolar. Which one's mentioned more? Okay. Polar species is mentioned once. Subpolar species is mentioned twice. So subpolar is mentioned more. So I don't even have to know what that's saying because I didn't have to do this math. All I need to know is it's mentioned twice as much. And now my answer is C because B mentions the key term that isn't mentioned as much. And that's it.